There's a reason why the curse of sin is broken. There's a reason why the darkness runs from light. There's a reason why we stand here now forgiven. Jesus is alive. There's a reason why we are not overtaken. There's a reason why we sing on through the night. There's a reason why our hope remains eternal. Jesus is alive. Praise the King. He is risen. Praise the King. He's alive. Praise the King. Death's defeated. Hallelujah, He's alive. Hallelujah, He's alive. There's a reason why our hearts can be courageous. There's a reason why the dead are made alive. There's a reason why we share His resurrection. Jesus is alive. Praise the King. He is risen. Praise the King. He's alive. Praise the King. Death's defeated. Hallelujah, He's alive. Hallelujah, He's alive. The grave could not ignore Him when all of heaven's roaring. Hell, where is your victory? Death, where is your sting? The world could not ignore Him when all the saints are roaring. Hell, where is your victory? Death, where is your sting? The grave could not ignore Him when all of heaven's roaring. Hell, where is your victory? Death, where is your sting? The world could not ignore Him when all the saints are roaring. Hell, where is your victory? Death, where is your sting? Praise the King. He is risen. Praise the King. He's alive. Praise the King. Death's defeated. Hallelujah, He's alive. Hallelujah, He's alive. Hallelujah, He's alive. Before the throne of God above, I have a strong and perfect plea, a great high priest whose name is love, whoever lives and pleads for me. My name is graven on His hands, my name is written on His heart. I know that while in heaven He stands, no tongue can bid me thence depart. No tongue can bid me thence depart. When Satan tempts me to despair and tells me of the
really not want to be on camera, and also Margaret.
There's a place where mercy reigns and never dies. There's a place where streams of grace flow deep and wide, where all the love I've ever found comes like a flood, comes flowing down. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love ran red and my sin washed white, I owe all to you. I owe all to you, Jesus. There's a place where sin and shame are powerless, where my heart has peace with God and forgiveness, where all the love I've ever found
Well, g'day guys, it's great to have you here with us. It's great to be with you. Whether you're at home, you're in the hall, or you're at church, it's an awesome privilege to be able to do church with you guys online. This Sunday, we're going to be looking at Jonah 4. There's heaps going on. I'm so excited. Had a little sneak peek of the sermon. It's really, really good. It's an encouraging one, particularly if you're a grumbler. And what it is to actually understand what it is that God's doing in times where we're really uncertain about what's going on. So it's going to be a good one. I want to encourage you guys to have a think about how that can apply in your life. We're going to kick things off with a couple of things. We've got an awesome song. It's Blessed Be Your Name. It's a bit of a classic. It's also something that I think really speaks to many people's heart when we kind of think about what it means to actually praise God in sometimes some tough times. So let's kick that off together. Whether you're at home, or at church or in the auditorium, let's do this together as a congregation. If you're in the hall, don't forget you can hum, but you can't sing. And if you're at home, you can sing, but we don't want you to hum. So let's do this together as a family. Enjoy.
Blessed be your name in the land that is plentiful, where streams of abundance flow. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name when I'm found in the desert place, though I walk through the wilderness. Blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be your name when the sun's shining down on me, when the world's all as it should be. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name on the road marked with suffering. There's pain in the offering. Blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name.
On today's episode of Who is the Smartest Dinosaur,
we have a new challenger. His name is Chompington Rex the Billion and Third, alias
Jumpy! Thanks for having me on your show.
You're welcome. Now,
I'm going to show you that I am the smartest dinosaur who has ever dinosaured.
Okay.
I'm really smart.
Okay. Today, Chompy, you have chosen your special subject to be God being faithful to his promises and his people.
Absolutely. I'm so ready. I've been practicing all the things we learn at kids' church. Ask me any question from all 9 weeks.
Okay, Chompy, here we go. Question 1. Who was the young man who refused to eat anything but vegetables and water, risking his own life?
No. Daniel. Daniel is my final answer.
Correct.
Yes.
Question 2. Who was responsible for revealing the meaning of Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue being crushed by a rock?
I want to say Daniel, but I got it. It was God. God is the one who revealed the meaning of the dream.
Correct.
Yes. Thank you, God.
Question 3. What were the names of the Israelite men who refused to bow to Nebuchadnezzar's statue and were thrown into a furnace to be rescued by God?
Oh, this is easy. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Gotcha.
Can we have their Hebrew names, please?
What? I don't know Hebrew. I don't know. Do any of you know Hebrew? Can I please do a phone a friend?
Sure.
Okay. I'm calling my friend Allison.
Hi, Alison speaking.
Allison, it's Jumpy.
Hi, Chompy.
Allison, I'm in a real big lot of trouble. You gotta help me. They're asking me the answer to some question on a quiz show, and I want to show how smart I am, but I don't know how to speak Hebrew. Allison, Daniel's Babylonian friend named what's it in Hebrew? Please help me. Please help me.
Calm down. You've learned all about God. I'm sure if you look into your heart, look into your mind, I'm sure you'll find the answers.
Allison, that's not very helpful. Just tell me the answer quick.
Fine. Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael.
Thank you. Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael.
Correct.
Yay! Thank you, Allison.
Question 4, multiple choice. King Belshazzar ignored God until he saw something reveal a serious message that God was going to condemn him. Did he see A, a bat chasing him, B, a hand writing on the wall, or C, a tiger about to eat him?
Or D, a dinosaur about to bite his head off.
You can't add your own answers.
All right. Well, I think this one is B. He saw the giant hand writing on the wall the message.
Correct.
Yeah.
Question 5, multiple choice.
Oh, yeah.
When he found out that praying to anyone but the king meant he would be thrown in a lion's den, what did Daniel do? Did he A, stop praying to God, B, go and pray hiding under his bed, or C, change nothing and pray as usual with the windows wide open?
Definitely C, because Daniel was so brave and so cool. I bet he prayed with like the windows open and like a megaphone and some speakers going, I'm praying now and I'm praying to God and I'm going to do it and you can't stop me. Yeah, so C. Yes.
Minus the tech setup. Question 6. What was built in Jerusalem after Ezra and many other Israelites were allowed to return home by decree of King Cyrus?
The wall. Wait. That was Nehemiah, wasn't it? You can't tell me. Let me think. They didn't have the wall yet, but they were sacrificing stuff. I know. The temple foundations.
Correct.
That's what they do. Yes. What score am I on?
So far, Chompy, you have answered 6 questions out of 6 questions correctly.
Yes. So smart.
Question 7, multiple choice. When Nehemiah asked the king to let him go to Jerusalem to rebuild the walls and protect God's people, what did the king do? Did he A, say sure and give Nehemiah everything he needed? Or B, get mad and have Nehemiah killed? Or C, get mad and have Nehemiah thrown in jail?
Well, I reckon he probably would have been a little bit mad, but God was kind of doing stuff in the background, wasn't he? So I think God made him give Nehemiah everything he needed. So A.
Correct.
Yeah. Man, God is good.
Question 8. What did Nehemiah do when the enemies of Israel planned to attack and hurt them?
Oh, I remember this one because it's really cool. God gave them swords and he said, keep praying and keep going. And they did keep on praying and keep on going because they had their swords and they were ready to do some like chopping and chop people's heads and they were going to do like kung fu. Hi-ya-ya-ya-ya-ya with their swords. Yeah, so they kept on going because they prayed and because of the swords.
That Nehemiah gave them.
Yeah, that one.
Not God.
But they still had swords, right?
Correct.
Yay!
Question 9. Why was Jesus the answer to God's promises?
But that's easy. I do kids church all the time. And Jesus is the answer to God's promises because he's just cool.
Can you be more specific?
Okay. Well, Jesus is the answer to all God's promises because like he's the one who comes along and lets everyone be good with God again, whether they're an Israel person or a non-Israel person or whether they're a dinosaur like Chompy. He brings everyone back to God.
Correct.
Yeah. See, I've been listening.
Question 10.
What? How can I be a question 10? There's only been 9 weeks of kids' church.
Question 10. Who can be part of God's kingdom?
Oh, that's easy. Everyone knows that. The answer is everyone can be part of God's kingdom. Whether you're someone from Israel or India or China or Australia or Tanzania or Indonesia or France or Canada or Mexico or New Zealand or Madagascar or Sweden
all right, we get it. Correct!
Yeah!
Well done, Chompy.
Woo!
You are the smartest dinosaur and our new champion!
Yeah! Was there ever any doubt? Thank you for cheering me on. Oh, a trophy! I love trophies! Yeah! Allison, you didn't.
I did.
You got me steak!
I did.
Oh, thank you! This is the best prize a dinosaur could ever have! Thank you, thank you, thank you!
You're welcome.
That was so much fun! Thank you, Allison. Thanks for everything this term. And thank you, everyone, for helping me. And thanks for doing kids' church with me. And have a good holiday. And I'll see you later. Bye! Bye! Chompy! Out!
Well, hey everyone, Tom here, and great to be joined by Beth Turner. Beth has managed to stay off camera for the last few months, which is quite an amazing feat, but we've finally got you, Beth, so here we go. I've asked Beth to be interviewed a bit today for a few reasons. Firstly, she's great. Everyone should want to have a chat with Beth. If you see her around, go say hi. She's lovely. Secondly, we've recently had the joy of being able to bring Beth onto the paid staff at church for a day a week. We've asked Beth to be our admin guru. She's working behind the scenes to make sure that things run as smoothly at church as possible. And so we want to be thanking God for that and thanking Beth for that, and also thanking God for the finances being in a position that have allowed us to do that. And thirdly, as you know, Beth has been overseeing a lot of the kind of behind the scenes things, particularly for Sundays. And so I just wanted to ask Beth kind of how that's been going, particularly in this period of weird COVID craziness, and also then going forwards into term 3. So Beth, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Beth Turner. I go to the 10 a.m. service. I go with my husband, Matt, and my little daughter, Cassie, who's going to be 6 months old next month, which is very exciting. So yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of you during the week, but for those of you that I don't get to talk to face to face, I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about me and a bit about my job. So yeah, what I do with my job is I talk to a lot of you during the week. I get things organized, so I do a lot of the rosters. I help Tom with a lot of his planning and getting his schedule together. All the paperwork that comes through the office goes through me, same with the emails. Yeah, it's kind of a lot of, stuff which you might find a bit boring, but I actually find quite interesting, and I love it. So that's what I do.
I thank God for people like you, Beth, who love that sort of admin, because so much will not happen unless we have admin taken care of, and it's certainly not my strong suit. So thank you for serving all of us by getting me organized, really. What have been some of the kind of great things in taking on this admin role?
And what have also been some of the challenges? Because I'm sure there are challenges and yeah.
Some of the great things is I've been getting to know a lot more people because I get to talk to people at both the 10 a.m. service and the 8:30 service, which is great. I really do enjoy that. So yeah, that's a really good part of what I do. And again, like I said, I like doing the admin kind of things. I like staying on top of everything and helping other people organize things. Some of the challenges, our church is growing, which is fantastic, but that means that there's a lot more people to talk to. So getting the rosters together is probably the biggest challenge. But once I do get them out, I breathe that big sigh of relief that they're done, and hopefully everyone can work with them. But I mean, if you can't, you can always go to me. But that's probably my biggest challenge, which is not that big a challenge considering everyone helps me out. It's a real team effort.
I totally get it. It's a hard role and so many different factors to sort of try and bring together. So thanks for helping all of us to serve. Really, it's a great thing you get to do. Term 2 has been obviously crazy and zany, and hopefully we never have to do that sort of a thing again. As we sort of head into term 3, we're expecting things to get a little bit more back to normal. From your perspective, can you share some of the things that we might need to know as we kind of get ourselves ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've been doing for the past few weeks, we've been meeting live at church, and we've been watching the pre-recorded service going up, which has been great. It's been really wonderful seeing everyone again and getting to share, serving each other and glorifying God together in the same room, which is wonderful. But as we start live church again, we are going to have to get all of our wonderful volunteers back together to do the services again. So that means we'll have to coordinate our 8:30 service and our 10 a.m. service and combine services in between. And we'll have to get everyone back into their serving roles that, you might feel like you'll be a bit rusty, but that's going to be the biggest challenge, is getting everyone organized together and feeling part of that community and part of sharing together on a team once again.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I hope the next few weeks go well, trying to get us all ready for the new term. And would you be okay if I pray for you and for all of us as we get ready for Sundays going forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. I'll pray. Thanks, Father, for Beth, and thanks for the way you've given her gifts that she can use for the sake of your kingdom and making Jesus known. And thanks for the way she's getting us organized and helping us to serve well and helping me to serve well. Lord God, we do thank you for our Sunday services. Thanks for the past term of being online, and thanks that as we look forward to the next term, we're thinking about being in person and doing things live again. And we thank you for the joy that it is to be together on Sundays and for the ability, like Beth said, of glorifying Jesus together. We do pray, Lord, that you'll help everything to come together for the new term, that all the different bits and pieces would work out so that our Sundays together can come back to something that we really love to experience together. Thank you for the privilege of gathering like this, and we pray that we get to do it all the more in the months ahead. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Beth. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thanks very much, Beth, for sharing a little bit about what it is that you do here at church. It's always so encouraging to be able to see people who do things here behind the scenes. Quite often there can be a bit of an emphasis on sort of things at the front, but when you think about for that to happen, there's got to be so many hands and feet behind the scenes. And so, Beth, super encouraged. Thanks so much for sharing. In church news, we've got a couple of things that we're going to bring to you guys now for what's going on. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at Jonah 4, and as we go forward, we're going to be looking into the book of Acts and Church History 101. It's something that's really, really interesting when you actually think about what we're doing today happened thousands and thousands of years ago. And the things that are kind of relevant today, the things that are good and bad, happened back then too. So it's really, really good. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. And it's going to be something that I think as a church we can definitely grow from. Next Saturday, we've got a really, really cool men's breakfast. I'm really excited. I don't know about you guys, but I love bacon and eggs, particularly on the barbie in the morning, and being able to hang out with some guys to talk life and talk about what it is that we men do best, which is usually just mumble and grumble, but also just to have some good chats. I've always found things like this to be super encouraging. If it's something that's on the card for you guys, can I encourage you to make it a priority? I know, guys, we sort of, we usually need our other half to kind of push us along to do these sorts of things, but can I encourage you to be the one that says, hey babe, I'm going to take a couple of hours out next Saturday morning. I'll come back and mow the lawn, but I want to hang out with the boys. It's going to be a good one. I'm really encouraged. I've actually got the Saturday off. I am definitely putting it in my calendar, and I hope to see you there too. As we kind of come out of lockdown, I don't want to use that word anymore because I feel like it's been beaten to the bush. There's going to be some really good Christian conferences coming up. So we've got the Base Camp for Men happening on the 8th of August. It's going to be really good. They're going to be streaming it here in the church auditorium. If you are interested in going to that or coming here to church to kind of be a part of that, get in touch with the guys at the office, get in touch with Beth or send Tom an email. And we'd love to have you guys here together as a congregation doing it together. We've also got something for the women, which is the One Love Conference. It's coming up on the 22nd of August. Really, really, really good for the women. Same sort of thing with the men's breakfast, but for the girls, obviously, in terms of being able to hang out together and do life and hear God's word. There's going to be an email coming out this afternoon, which will have all the information about that. So if you're interested in registering, be sure to check it out. And the last thing that I want to bring to your attention is the exciting news that we're going to be going live on the 19th of July. So 3 more weeks until we're here together doing church physically in the flesh. It's going to be really exciting. We've got the 8:30 service and the 10 a.m. service. It's going to be good. I don't know about you, but generally speaking, for me as a person, I find it so encouraging when I'm together with people in the flesh, doing life together, building relationships up, and just getting to know those around me who sometimes I don't even know their names, even though I've seen their face heaps of times. So can I encourage you, if you can be here, make it an effort to get in, say g'day to those familiar faces, say g'day to someone new. It's really, really good. It's going to be an awesome thing. I need to say though that if you do have to stay home because of, you might be a high risk, stay at home. We want to love you and be able to serve you in that regard. So the church service will still go online and it's making sure that you can hear God's word and that you can be encouraged by it. But yeah, if you can be here, be here. It's going to be awesome. We're going to look at a prayer before we go into God's word and hear the sermon. So I want to read with you that. It'll come up on the screen, so say it with me. Here we go. Thank you, Father, for making yourself known to us and showing us the way of salvation through faith in your Son. Teach us through your word and equip us for every good work. For the glory of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Morning everybody on this cool winter's morning. Jenny here from the 8:30 service. The Bible reading today is Jonah 4 and it's entitled Jonah's Anger at the Lord's Compassion. But to Jonah this seemed very wrong and he became angry. He prayed to the Lord, "Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? This is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." But the Lord replied, "Is it right for you to be angry?" Jonah had gone out and sat down at a place east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord God provided a leafy plant and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the plant. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm, which chewed the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die and said, "It would be better for me to die than to live." But God said to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" "It is," he said, "and I'm so angry, I wish I were dead." But the Lord said, "You have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. And should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals?
G'day everyone. There are some stories where once you know the ending, it becomes really hard to read the whole rest of the story without everything changing. You know, the ending shifts how you understand the entire rest of the story that's come before it. You probably know what I'm talking about, right? Movies like The Sixth Sense or Fight Club, or TV shows like The Good Place or How I Met Your Mother. For me, even to mention them now is a risky thing, because knowing that there's something that's going to change at the ending that changes the whole story, it kind of is a bit of a spoiler. If you haven't seen those movies, I'm sorry for spoiling them for you. But this whole thing of the ending changing the whole rest of the story, it is 100% the book of Jonah. And we've spent the past month reading the book of Jonah bit by bit, and the whole time, you've probably noticed this weird reluctance from Jonah to go and do what God is telling him to do. God says, go and preach my message to the Ninevites. And Jonah is like, sorry God, hard pass on that one. I'm kind of instead going to go in the opposite direction and do the opposite, if that's okay. And of course, God chases Jonah, God challenges Jonah, God brings Jonah back into alignment with his way of thinking and seeing things. He sends Jonah off again, and this time Jonah does do what God is telling him to do. He goes and he preaches. But the whole time, if you're reading this and you don't already know the ending, you're sitting there wondering, why? Why is Jonah so reluctant? Why is Jonah so intent on running away? What is it about this job that God is asking him to do that makes him want to run to the opposite side of the planet just to get out of it? Today, as we get to the end of the story, we find out exactly why. Because here in chapter 4, Jonah ain't a happy chappy. He is acting a bit like a grumpy toddler, to be honest, and as a world expert in grumpy toddlers, I feel very qualified to give that diagnosis. Jonah has just gone and he's done God's work. He's walked through the streets of Nineveh. He's proclaimed a warning message. What you're doing is wrong. It offends God. It deserves punishment. And the response from the city and its leaders, miraculously, is that they decide, yes, you're right. We had better ask for God's forgiveness before it's too late. They get down on bended knee and they plead for forgiveness. They say sorry. And you would think that at this point, Jonah would be pumped. You think he'd be mad excited. You think he'd be on ancient Facebook texting all his friends saying, great news, a whole city has repented and found forgiveness. But actually, not so much. Here's how it goes. We'll pick it up from chapter 3, verse 10 again, the end of the last bit. Chapter 3, verse 10. Here's a good summary. When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring on them the destruction he had threatened. That's what happened. Chapter 4, verse 1. But to Jonah, this seemed very wrong. And he became angry. He prayed to the Lord. Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? This is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you're a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it's better for me to die than to live. This is why Jonah didn't want to go in the first place. It's not that he didn't like the food in Nineveh. It's not that he didn't like the weather in Nineveh. It's not that he didn't want God to pull him away from his life back at home and interrupt his Netflix watching or something like that. It's because he knew what God is like. He knew that God is gracious and compassionate and slow to get angry and abounding in love and someone who loves to relent from sending calamity. AKA, he knew that God would not punish Nineveh. He knew that he would forgive the Ninevites. And he hated the idea that Nineveh would get this kind of treatment, that they would meet this God. So much so that now that it's happened, now that Nineveh has turned to God and repented and tasted his forgiveness, Jonah says, I wish I were dead. He's just so disgusted by what he has played a part in seeing happen that he just wishes that it would all end. And you and I, we hear that and we are like, what? What is your problem, Jonah? This just doesn't compute, does it? How could someone possibly take that kind of attitude? How could you look at a whole group of people, a whole city, who are frankly just like you? They're made in the image of your Creator. and think, I want what is worst for them. I don't want them to last. I don't want them to be forgiven. How could you want that? We see things totally different to Jonah, and that is because we have had the privilege of meeting Jesus. Jesus gives us as Christians a whole new way of seeing the world. Actually, it's bigger than that, really. Jesus gives the world a whole new way of seeing itself. One where we now recognize that people matter, even people who are very, very different to us. Jonah's got a really important part to play in the Bible and in our Christian lives. He's here to highlight just how impressive Jesus is. Just like Jonah, Jesus is sent to God's enemies. But there's a massive difference in how they carry out this task. Jonah wants to run away from God's enemies. But Jesus instead runs straight towards them. Jesus doesn't buy into tribalism and decide that only some people are worthy of his love. Jesus doesn't decide to die for only those who already like him. No, Jesus comes into a world where we are naturally divided into tribes, where we do feel like we naturally hate people who are different to us. And he comes to that and he says, no way! That is not how it should be. That's not what is right. That is not what God is like. And then to prove it, he goes and he dies for his enemies. He's on the cross, looking down at the Roman soldiers executing him, looking down on the Jewish leaders who put him on trial and sent him to this death. And he says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He gives us reason after reason after reason to not be like Jonah. To kind of get rid of any sense of reluctance on who we're going to share the gospel with. To think these people, I want them to become Christians, but not those people. We are saved by the God who ran towards his enemies. We are saved by the God who resolved to love those who didn't necessarily love him back to begin with. He acted first. We have all been saved because God chose to run towards us. Even when we were enemies, Christ died for us. And so it's now our privilege to get to introduce others to that God and to reflect the love of that God. To share with people the great news that they are wanted. You read Jonah and you go, this guy's he's got it all wrong. And his flaw, the thing that's kind of thrown him off completely and made him all grumptacular, is that he's not seeing people as God sees them. Because from God's perspective, people matter. Even when those people are not exactly your cup of tea. Yes, those people think differently to me. Yes, those people have different priorities to me. Yes, those people look different to me. Yes, those people sound different to me. Yes, some of them might be my enemies. They might hate me. But at their core, they're just like me. They've got all the same issues that I have. They need the same solution that I enjoy. Their issue is my issue too. Their issue is rebellion against God. It's found its way into all of our hearts. We can't ditch it. We actually secretly like it if we're honest with ourselves. And we all equally need to have it called out, kind of named. This is nasty. This is not good for you. To reject the God who made you and loves you, this is a really dumb idea. We all equally need to be encouraged to turn back to that God and plead for forgiveness and know that he is ready and willing and able to give it. There are lots of differences in this world, but beat it right down to the middle and we're all exactly the same. And God calls Jonah out on this. He calls Jonah out on his massive lack of compassion for people. That just doesn't make any sense. Jonah has his big rant at God about how he hates what God has done and he didn't want to do this in the first place. And God asks him a question. In verse 4, he says, "Is it right for you to be angry? Is this the right response, buddy? Should you be this grumpy at someone repenting?" Jonah, for his part, he goes and he sits down outside the city gates of Nineveh. And it says that he is waiting to see what would happen to the city in verse 5. It seems as though maybe Jonah reckons that his big rant has perhaps changed God's mind, that maybe God is going to punish the city after all. So he goes and he sits there and kind of kicks back and waits to see what will happen. And at this point, God gets really cheeky. It's one of those crazy hot Middle Eastern days, and even though Jonah's kind of built himself a little bit of a shade hut, it's still uncomfortable. So what does God do? God goes and provides a plant. He causes this plant to grow up over the side of the shade thing, and it covers it, and suddenly it's this lush, cool paradise. And Jonah is happy as Larry. Cheers, God, love your work. But then the next day, as the sun begins to come up again, God takes the plant away. Gone in a moment. One of those little punk worms that so often invade my garden and eat my broccoli away in a night. God sends one of those and they come along and they munch up the plant and boom, the whole God-provided shade sail is no more. And then just to kind of make matters worse, God chooses to send a really hot wind on this day so that Jonah is sitting there, he's sweating, he's scorching, he's missing that plant more than ever. And so, predictably, he gets toddler-level cranky at God again. In verse 9, he says, "Is it right?" God says to Jonah, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" And Jonah, he says, "It is. I'm so angry, I wish I were dead." Super grumpy, right? He loved that plant. It was precious to him. And that is exactly God's point. When something is precious to you, it matters. When something is precious to you, you want to see it be safe. The same thing applies to the people. Verse 10, the Lord said, "You've been concerned about this plant, though you didn't tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. Should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from the left, and also many animals?" Jonah, compare the way you are feeling about the plant to the way you're feeling about 120,000 people. Yes, you cared about the plant. Yes, it going away was a sad thing. But how much more should you be caring for people just like you? How much more is it absolutely right and good and great that God has chosen to care for all these souls? They're confused. They don't know their right hand from their left. Yes, they are your enemies. To not a first century reader, to an ancient Israelite reader reading this part of the Bible, you would have gone, Nineveh, they're the bad guys, right? Israel and Nineveh have had this long history of sparring against each other. Their borders kind of sit up against each other. Give it a couple of decades after Jonah, and Nineveh will become the heart of the Assyrian Empire, the empire that then sweeps down and takes over the northern part of Israel and carries people off into slavery. It's 100% true that these guys are not your best friends. But they still matter. People matter. Your enemies matter. Your opposites matter. People who irritate you and drive you up the wall, they matter. Jesus gives us every reason to know that this is true. Do you think that Jesus would look at you and me and think, yes, here is a person who impresses me in every way? Not a chance. We annoy and irritate and upset our God every day of the week. But did he love us anyway? Even to the point of sacrifice and death? You bet he did. When it comes to us sharing the gospel, we've got to recognize that all people matter. We've got to have an attitude that we want for all people to hear this precious good news, because we're all in this together. And that even includes those who really, really make you mad. I heard an amazing story about sharing the gospel with people who drive you crazy the other week. I'm on a Facebook group for a bunch of ministers from Sydney who've come from Sydney, and one of the members of the group shared a story that he'd personally experienced. It was his story. And I need to say that because it sounds like a crazy out there story. You know those stories that do the rounds on the internet where it's clearly made up and only gullible suckers believe it? It sounds like one of those. But actually, I know that this is true because I know this guy. This minister, his name is Brett. And just like us, he gets all sorts of annoying spam phone calls. You know, they tend to happen at dinner time, right when you're busy. You look on your phone and it looks as though it's like an unknown mobile number, but then you pick it up and it spends like 3 seconds connecting you to the other side of the planet. He gets those all the time, like us, and they're annoying. But Brett has decided, I'm going to try and use these calls as an opportunity to share the gospel with someone who might otherwise never hear it. Yes, they're annoying, but they deserve to hear about Jesus. So the first thing he asks the spammer after the spammer has begun their little spiel is, do you believe in God? And 99% of the time he says, that's the end of the conversation. Phone hangs up, problem solved in a sense. However, the other week, Brett answered the phone and asked this question, do you believe in God? The answer that came back in an Indian accent was yes. And so Brett asked, which God? And the spammer, he said, I'm not sure anymore. They talked for a minute about the Hindu gods and how it's so hard with the Hindu gods because you've got to try and appease them. And the spammer confessed that he felt wretched because he knows that he's making these fake phone calls. He knows that he's trying to steal from people by getting their credit card details. He knows that he's ripping off vulnerable, older people. He feels awful about it because he knows that he's upsetting the gods. But what choice does he have? He's got to provide for his family. And at this point, Brett, the minister, he brings up the fact that there is a God who loves us. And the spammer asked him, why? Good question. Why would a God love us? And Brett's answer, this is what he said. He says, because he made you as his beloved child. Because we do the wrong things, we hurt him. He had to punish the human race. We can't have friendship with him without his help, but he gives his help. And the spammer, by now Brett has asked his name. His name is Harjit. He started sobbing. And he said to Brett, I need this. I need this forgiveness. At which point Brett explained, well, you can have it. This is a gift from God if you ask for it. And so he asks Harjit, do you want this? And Harjit says, yes, very much so, sir. Amazing. And Brett asks where Harjit lives. Turns out it's in Mumbai. He asks, do you know of any churches in the area? Harjit says, yes, but everyone laughs at them. Everyone hates them. Brett says, well, you're going to have to go and talk to them. Go and seek them out. Go and tell them that you want to know God's forgiveness through Jesus. And Harjit says, I will do this. Thank you. You have saved my life. And then Brett said he could hear some kind of yelling in Hindi in the background and a bit of a back and forth, and then the phone got hung up. What a wild story. I'll share the whole thing on our Facebook group so you can read it in detail. It's amazing. Wild and definitely legit. And I love it. What a beautiful way to approach those who annoy you. To consider them somebody who you might have an opportunity to share Jesus with. Jonah ran from his enemies. And we want to run from those who drive us crazy. We want to kind of isolate ourselves and just hang out with those who we're comfortable with, and life is happier that way. The only problem is, that's not Jesus' way. Jesus ran towards those who hated him in order to love them. Let's go do it.
Hi everybody, I'm Mark. Let's spend some time in prayer. Sovereign Lord, you made the heavens, the earth and the sea. You made everything in them. At your word, life commenced. You flung the stars and the heavenly bodies into the sky to inspire us at night. The beauty of your creation to inspire us during the day. In a moment you sent a fish to take Jonah, that he could reflect on your sovereignty. Then you provided shade in the desert, and a bug to destroy the shade. How great is your mighty name. Father, you have answered prayer in delivering new babies into our family safely. You have returned some to good health, while we have seen the sadness that Jesus saw when mourning the passing of dear friends. For this is not what you intended for us. Bless us, use us, comfort us, strengthen us. Thank you, Lord, for rescuing us from our selfishness. Give us hearts for charity and generosity towards those who work to extend your kingdom here and overseas. We also ask for you to raise men to lead congregations that are currently without a pastor, and really convict the chosen to move to take up new positions, as the fields are many and varied, and the harvest is plentiful. We ask, Lord, that you might use your Holy Spirit to make our lives a testament to your saving work. And in so doing, we also can speak of our Saviour's love, as we can do nothing to make us one with you, except to accept your gift, Jesus, in whose name we pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sin, as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Everyone needs compassion, love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness of a Savior, the hope of nations. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. So take me as you find me, with all my fears and failures. Fill my life again. Give my life to follow everything I believe in. Now I surrender. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of
Well, hey guys, that brings us to the end of the service for today's Sunday. Hope you found it encouraging. If you're a grumbler, can I encourage you not to be a grumbler? And if you're not a grumbler, can I encourage you to encourage those who are grumblers to not be grumblers? We're going to do some socially distanced morning tea now. So if you're here in the building, awesome. It feels weird because you're probably looking at me, but don't look at the coffee. Say thank you to those who are prepared for it. And guys, let's encourage each other for this Sunday. Before we go, just make sure we are clean so I can grab a cup of tea. See ya.